This is a lower body foam roller reset. So we're going to be focusing on loosening up and kind of finding any tension in the glutes, the hamstrings, the calves, and then we're going to take it up and work on the hip flexor and the quad. Maybe a little IT band too. So starting with the glute, we're going to sit on the foam roller. And here already, without crossing any legs, you can just start leaning to one side and you can roll parts of your glute. But ideally, we want to be able to cross a leg up and over. This kind of exposes the glute muscle a little better. Whatever leg is up, you're going to lean onto that same side. So my left leg's crossed over, I should be rolling my left glute here. I'm not just mindlessly rolling, I'm looking for points of tension. And when I find kind of a knot or a hot spot, I'm going to pause on it. And then I'm going to mobilize my hip a little bit this way. So you can press, you can pull, you can move it back and forth. And then remember, kind of change the angle that you're moving to. And once you find a good angle, pause on it. Take a couple deep breaths. So for this series, we'll do everything on one leg, then we'll repeat it on the other. So that's your glute. From here, we're going to take it into the hamstring. The quickest way to get into this is to hold yourself up by your hands. Here. We have multiple hamstring muscles. So with this, you want to play with the different angles of your foot. So right now, my knee and my toe are straight up, but you also can turn your toe out to the side, and you'll get a different hamstring that way, and you can turn it in, and you'll get a different hamstring. And again, wait until you find a spot that's tender, pause on it, and then you can sort of flex and extend your foot here, or you can cross and add a little bit of weight. And then you can do this kind of back and forth. So this movement up and down are oscillations. But this movement, when you go kind of across the fiber, is called cross fibering. So that's a good way to kind of loosen up some of that tissue and kind of break up some of those knots. That's the hamstring. Then we're going to go to the calf, and it's the same basic setup. You can start already at the back of your knee. So kind of right behind your knee, there's some good attachment points for the muscle. Otherwise, we're going to come back and roll the calf. And it's the same thing with the hamstring. Change the angles. You have inner calves, outer calves. You can go low here. And if you find a tender spot, pause, flex, and extend that foot. So that's all on one side. This is our posterior chain, glute, hamstring, calf. You can go ahead and hit that on the other side. So we have glute. I'll just demonstrate very briefly. Hamstring. Here, you can cross legs for a little more pressure, and then calves. And you can cross legs for a little more pressure. So that's our back line. Then we're going to go into the front, and we're going to start just with this hip flexor. So we get on the side so that the foam roller is not kind of crossing over my hips. I have room to move on the other side, and I'm just starting in right at the hip flexor here. It's just almost just the length of my hand is how far I'm rolling. And if you find a tender spot there, kick your heel up. You could also kind of drive your knee away from the floor and kind of flex your glute. You'll get a little work there. Then we're going to take it down into the full quad. So I'm taking that whole length from my hip down to just above my knee. You don't want to roll over the front of your knee, like your actual kneecap, you don't need to roll over. But remember, your quads wrap around that whole front of your leg too, so we can get a little bit of the inside. And then lastly, I'll show you on that same leg. You can get on the outside. So this is kind of an outer quad. Some people would call this an IT band foam roll. So I'm crossing that top leg over. and then I'm just pushing off that foot and lowering myself with enough pressure as I want to give here. And so once you find the tender spot, we can floss back and forth this way. And the idea is that you should be able to run through all of these motions, and you don't need to roll every one, but check in with them. And if you find points of tension or knots, spend time with them. If the muscle feels pretty good, it's not too tender or uncomfortable, you can move on to the next one. Enjoy it.